Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. Warm welcome for everyone who's joined us on this fireside chat as part of the Reboot series by ABC Consultants. We've had a huge amount of interest for this particular one. I think last I checked, we had about 1,450 registrations. I suspect that has something to do with the quality of our panelists here today. Just taking a step back, I mean, perhaps for the first time, we are facing not just a financial crisis, but a health crisis, a humanitarian crisis, a demand crisis, and a supply crisis all at the same time. And that makes the situation fairly unique. And, we've heard experts talk about all kinds of shapes, U, V, and W. In fact, the other day I heard someone talk of a bathtub-shaped recovery as well. So I thought that was quite interesting there. Now, how a company is going to cope and reimagine their future? Will it truly be a new normal or go back to business as usual once the dust settles? To make sense of all of this, we've got a star-studded panel today with us, and I'm really looking forward to an engaging and energizing conversation on the opportunities and possibilities during these times. So before we start, maybe just a very quick round of introductions. Not that I think many of the folks on this panel need too much of an introduction, but maybe starting with my screen that I can see on my right. So Amit Dalmia, Senior Managing Director and Operating Partner in the corporate private equity group of Blackstone, where he spent 10 years working closely with portfolio companies across a whole bunch of industry sectors. Before joining Blackstone, Amit was with Unilever for about 13 years in different roles. He's a triple gold medalist chartered accountant, company secretary, and cost accountant. And has actually completed 20 marathons all over the world. So I thought that was quite interesting there. Sudhanshu Vats recently joined SL Propack as Managing Director and CEO. Before this was MD and Group CEO of Viacom 18 Media, where he successfully steered Viacom 18 from, I think it was for about 8 years, as he transformed a TV company with 6 channels to become the fastest growing full play media organization with presence across screens and platforms. Like quite a few on this panel, as if those of you who joined us just before this, Sudhanshu is also a Unilever veteran, spent over 20 years in different assignments and launched and shaped some iconic brands during his time there. Sudhanshu is an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Welcome, Sudhanshu.
Thank you.
Vivek Gambhir, Managing Director and CEO of Godrej Consumer Products. Vivek joined Godrej in 2009, initially as Chief Strategy Officer, before taking over the reins of Godrej Consumer Products in 2013. Before Godrej, Vivek was a partner at Bain and company, worked across Boston, Singapore, and Delhi, one of the founding members of Bain's operations in India, and led the FMCG practice there. Vivek is an MBA from Harvard Business School. Welcome, Vivek. Manish Tiwari. Manish is Vice President at Amazon India and manages the entire consumer business for Amazon in India. Manish is passionate about changing the way India buys and sells and has been driving the online transformation in India over the last 4 years. So it'll be interesting to hear some of that maybe later in the conversation. Joined Amazon in 16, again 20 years at Unilever across a whole bunch of different roles there. Manish is an MBA from IIM Bangalore. And finally, we have Abhik Singhi. Abhik is a senior partner and managing director with the Boston Consulting Group. He's been leading BCG's consumer and retail practice in APAC and is a member of the global practice leadership team. He's partnered closely with clients across various sectors in Asia, North America, and Middle East. There, he's an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, is also a co-author of the book, The $10 Trillion Prize, published by Harvard Business Review Press. And he's written several reports on the Indian consumer, retail, and agri sectors. Abhik has kindly agreed to moderate our fireside chat today. So without any further delay, Abhik, over to you. And of course, I think we all know by now, any questions, please post on the Q&A tab. Over to you, Abhik. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. There are 3 questions which are being talked about every time there is a conversation today. I think the first question is, when will this all end? When will COVID end? I think the second is, what will be the response of the consumers? What will be the response of the companies? And the third one, in a somewhat lighter vein, on is, can you hear me? Especially on these Zoom calls. So, just wanted to check, can you hear me? I'm sure we will hear a lot of that as we go forward. But thanks, Shiv, for the introduction. And I think as I was thinking about this conversation, and really it's a conversation. I think, over the last 2 months, there have been multiple people who have, talked about what is likely to happen. And at least my personal view is, this is simply something which many of us, if not all of us, have not seen in our lifetime. One of the things when we were having this discussion was to say, can we all avoid the use of the word unprecedented, in this conversation? And those who don't, or those who actually end up using this, will buy the others a round of whiskey or their favorite poison. But more seriously, I think this is something which requires not only looking at the past, because the past is only to some indicator as to what will happen in the future. So it is important really to have a collection of ideas in terms of what could the way forward be, and to really plan for what could happen. And as I think Eisenhower said, that all plans are useless, but the planning is not. So really, I think over the course of the next hour or so, what I really look forward to discussing with this panel is, what could be the set of things, what could be the range of options, scenarios which could happen. And obviously they will vary across different sectors, and it's great that we actually have people who are spent their time across different sectors, who are viewing the situation from their vantage point. So I hope this will be a interesting conversation. Just to set the ball rolling, I'd like to start with 2-3 quick facts and then get the panel's reactions for the same. There's been a lot of talk about how will the consumer behavior change, both short term and permanently. And there have been a plethora of surveys, researches, etc., which have been there in the public domain. Now, one of the things which one has to do with consumer research is to interpret it carefully, because what consumers say versus what they think and what they actually do are sometimes three different things. So you can't really take the consumer research really at its face value. And just to give a couple of examples, I found it fascinating to see that in this time period, actually the viewing time on TV, for example, increased more than the time which actually increased on digital. While sort of the popular belief is actually a lot of time on TV was a thing of the past, but there seems to have been some resurgence or revival. So there's almost a little bit of a dichotomy. Similarly, online has been a huge source of advantage for a set of players who have done interesting tie-ups and so on. But at the same time, we've also seen the kirana, in some sense, regain its relevance. So we are seeing dichotomous behavior. And finally, in terms of the consumer confidence and customer confidence, I would say both business confidence and consumer confidence, we are hearing both ends, and obviously the impact varies by sector. So the first question that I'd like to start off with and get people's view is, what are some of the changes that you've seen in customer behavior, consumer behavior over the last few months? And more importantly, what is it that you think is going to be temporary, and what could be something which could prevail even going forward? And Vivek, if I could ask you to tee off, that would be great, and then follow across the panelists. So Vivek, over to you.
Thank you very much, Abhik and Shiv. It's a pleasure being on this panel, and I hope that everyone's families are safe and well. Abhik, to your question, I think we have some indicators of some short-term changes that are happening. honestly, it's very difficult to decode and say what could actually be permanent changes. It's far too soon. And what's quite interesting is that if you talk to historians, a lot of them will say that periods of war and famine are always followed by baby booms. So, in spite of the stress and pressure of war and limited supply, people do tend to gravitate back to some of their old ways. So, it's still a little bit unclear about what areas will people revert back to the old normal, as they say. But I do feel that there are enough micro changes that are happening in the way consumers are looking at brands, their shopping habits, and their behaviors. So I'll quickly list a few of them, and I'm sure then the rest of the panelists will further build on them. Clearly, in the near term, I think we are getting used to a quarantine restricted living, and lockdowns will continue in some shape or the form. While the overall cases may level off, hopefully, over the next few weeks, the cases will continue to spread. And that will lead to a certain slowdown in economic activity with some serious concerns about job losses and reduction in income, which means I think you will first of all see a flight to value. It will become a necessity economy with consumers looking for more affordable, more quality value products. The second, I think we've all seen more focus on health, hygiene, and protection. It is going to become part of our regimens with an increasing focus from cure to prevention. See healthusiasm actually emerging as a big trend. The third is, as we've seen, is that consumers were caught a little bit off guard when the first lockdown happened. So they will want to be, will want to be sure, they will want to be prepared with more safety stock, which will lead to a certain amount of pantry buildup and stockpiling. Shopping behavior is a fourth trend, I think, which change as well. Because of social distancing and some fears, there will be fewer shopping trips, which means a greater adoption of online, along with probably more proximity shopping, which is where, as you were mentioning, Abhik, the Kirana store actually becomes very important. As consumers spend more time at home, you will see a greater focus on convenience, do-it-yourself products. People are spending more time at home. So you will see an emergence of the at-home economy. From a branding perspective, I think consumers will default to authentic brands that they can trust. Familiarity and relevance becomes more important, and that has implications in terms of the kind of products we create and how we end up communicating. And then I think finally we'll probably see a greater focus on compassion. I think what's happened with the entire migrant crisis is that the invisible has become visible in our faces. And so it has raised a collective consciousness and social mindedness. And so the level of compassion and the way I think consumers think about their role in society will actually undergo a change. So these are some early trends. Abhik, I'll stop there. And I'm sure the rest of the esteemed panelists will certainly build on these.
Great. Thanks a ton, Vivek. Manish, if I could, ask you to build on top of what Vivek mentioned, would be great, and would be also fascinating to see if you can share any perspective which you've seen not only from India as a market, but other markets, leading, lagging, anything that is a leading indicator would be great.
Sure, thanks, Abhi. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll share. It's been more than 2 months since the virus set in most markets, and I'll borrow a lot of data from what's happening in China, US, and Europe, because those markets have been open. E-commerce has been open throughout this period, so that data is a little more stable. Unlike India, where bulk of the non-essentials data is for the last 15 odd days. Yeah. And second is, like Abhik said, what I'm sharing with you is what the customer is actually doing. It's not research reports. So I'm quoting from things like the key search words, the pixels where customers are looking for, and the things which they are buying. And I'm cutting across content and physical. say content, Prime Video, Kindle, Music, and with, of course, Amazon.in and other locales. I think Vivek heard some of the mega trends. What happens is when you are living in the present, sometimes you don't realize the impact of this disruption which is happening. Yeah, and one of the things which is doing, and if we reflect back on our own lives, it just becomes very obvious that everything is now becoming very fluid. Yeah, so a month back or maybe 50 days back, we had some sense of security. That when we had 200 more infection cases, it would be like the top news. And today we have 10,000 plus going. And what it's doing for consumers is things which were very well set. The decision making, which was very, very solid, is becoming very fluid. And the reason I say that is if you see the number of detailed pages which a normal customer looks at before shopping, it's gone up massively. So consumers shop in two ways. You know, one is what we call spear phishing. So you go on the search bar and you write the product you want. Yeah. So let's say Godrej #1 soap, since Vivek is here, and you go and buy that. The number of spear phishing attempts have gone down. And when I'm talking about data, we have literally X million, high double-digit million views every day on Amazon.in. And I'm adding the data from the US and EU market. So that's like upwards of 3-4 billion views a day. And people are now writing soap. And it's driven from this entire movement of from solidity to becoming fluid. And it's not just consumer behavior. It's driven by a whole, this behavior is driven by various things like availability. Earlier, if you typed something, you would get it. Now you're not sure. And therefore you start typing and you're looking at what we call browsing rather than spear phishing. And this is across any category you look at that is happening. So the kind of automatic shopping behavior we had earlier, that seems to be going away. Yeah. And how much of it lasts also depends on the duration of this crisis. How long are we under this new sort of normal? But like Vivek said, there are a few things which are very clearly emerging. People are, like Vivek said, we were caught by surprise. Today, if you see the number of carom boards we sell in India, or the number of Ludo sets we sell, it's close to 300x. So if we were selling, say, 10 a day, it's now up by 300. And now I'm talking about close to 18 days of shopping behavior in India. It's not unique to India, by the way. In the other locales, which is, say, Europe and US, I think the hobbies and the games, the range is much bigger. So gardening, even in India, gardening is now suddenly people are searching for seeds. People are searching for how to set up, a terrace garden. So people were caught by surprise. And I think this is something which will persist for the medium term, where people are saying, let's be ready for it. We can't afford to be caught by surprise. The second thing is a lot of these habits will sustain. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people in this crowd who would have bought sports equipment for their home, yoga mats. These are like top search words right now. People are buying, the number of people who are buying treadmills today. And this will become a habit because, once you get used to it, you do realize that you don't need to necessarily go to a gym. And these are some of the habits which we believe will continue. Of course, there is downtrading happening. And it's a very weird world because on one side, you can see people indulging themselves. So it's almost like you're at home with your family. You can't do any other activity. So what is indulgence now? You buy gourmet food. You buy gourmet food which comes in kits which you can assemble and cook at home. At the same time, on mass products, we see a clear downtrading. And it's happening because during the intermediate period where supplies were bad, new brands came and supplied. Customers like the brand, and we know that from the customer rating, and customers are sticking to it. So that's a downtrading would be a trend. Of course, within Amazon, we are saying something quite simple, that 2030 has happened in 2020. So the curve for penetration for OTT, for digital reading, for digital music, digital payments, online shopping, we have actually preponed the curve by almost a decade. So I think that's a summary of what's happening with customers from what I can see.
Great. Thanks, Adan. And Just building off Manish, the last point which you said, I think that's a great vantage point, Sudhanshu, for to hear from you, which is around what's happening both from a media perspective, any perspective that you have, and also in some sense, SL Propack is the supplier to many of the end consumer goods. So you're actually in the unique position of seeing both content and consumer goods. Any perspective that you are seeing?
Yeah. No, thanks, Abhik, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Shiv, for first of all, congratulations on the 50 years of ABC, and thank you for organizing this reboot series. I think it's a great idea. Let me start by talking a bit about media and going a little deeper, as you said, Abhik. And I think we've spoken about it already. You started off by saying that there has overall been an increase in consumption in media. Television particularly seen a bounce back. And I think within that, 3 or 4 genres have seen a stronger bounce back, as would be expected, as in a stronger jump, which is news is really good, really, really good. And I think, and then there is, of course, movies, kids, and general entertainment. So I think in some ways, the stacking order in the short or immediate term has changed. Now, whether that is long term is something to be seen. But otherwise, it used to be always GEC right on top, general entertainment, as you would say, and then others at different levels. I think that is a change which is, and it's happened across the world, not only in India, it's happened across the world. Actually, with no exception at all, in my opinion. And I've seen this and in those days. The other thing which we talked about, which Manish referred to as well, is streaming services, or OTT is going to grow and is grown very rapidly. And I can tell you a little bit from personal experience. You see, we have or Viacom 18 had an OTT called Voot. It has an OTT called Voot. Voot earlier was an AVOD service, but in March, just before COVID actually, end Feb, early March, we commercially launched the subscription service as well under Voot Select. And I think in a month's time, the kind of numbers it grew in, from whatever I had read of the Indian market and the other competitors who had launched, I think it was at a phenomenal level. I would attribute some of it to content, but I would attribute a lot of it to COVID as well and the change in consumer behavior. So I think the pace at which we ramped up, and I think, just to build on Manish's point and, how you could sort of fold in, he used the word decade, but I think it was really fast. So the first million number was at a very, very rapid pace. I think this is a trend, Abhik, which will stay. It is a more permanent trend, and I think this is a trend which is here to stay. And we should watch out for this trend and be ready for it. I think the other interesting piece from a media tech perspective is the use of, and I think starting with our webinar today, I think the use of Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I think is a trend which is again a trend which will stay in some form or the other, because it's a trend which is basically, you find you are very efficient in many of the things. I think, you can do things well. You don't need to spend that much time on the roads. And I'm now bringing in a bit of my EPL hat as well, where I've done everything. I actually onboarded in this period. I have done everything virtually, Abhik. And I think, I'm now meeting customers virtually. So, and I think, and we are finding, and the team is saying, and I think team is a better judge there, because they have done physical meetings and now they are doing these meetings. They are saying that these meetings are as effective, and if not more effective. So I think, therefore, this is another trend which will coexist. I'm not saying that physical meetings will go away, but this will coexist. And, that all of us know in today's time, we've done celebrations on Zoom, we've done parties on Zoom, we've even done prayer meetings on Zoom. So, and I think, and I've personally experienced actually the entire spectrum with my daughter graduating, from Columbia this year. So I think, so therefore, it's a full range. So some of these are more permanent trends, and they're not going to change. Coming to packaging, what we are seeing is, and what I'm seeing from a consumer lens, and deep diving on a bit of a macro trends which Vivek talked about, is I think health and hygiene is a trend which will get accentuated. I think that's one thing which we are very clearly seeing. So whether it is sanitizers, whether it's hand wash, some other products in this category. So this is a trend which will get accentuated and will only grow. quite obvious, but we are very closely seeing it. We are seeing it with players, with brands, and so on and so forth. And I'm seeing it across the spectrum. I think the other trend which was interesting is basically and these are trends which will again stay. In my opinion, sanitizers and hand wash and this habit change is here to stay. So this is at least a medium-term trend, if not a long-term trend. I think that's very clearly the thing. I think I was discussing with one of the customers, and they operate in salons. So they were very worried about, what will happen to salons. And how will, once we reopen, what will things happen? So if you look at a lot of the stuff which is used in salon, tends to be large bulk size stuff. And, so for want of any better word, these are bigger dispensing bottles, or they are tubs in many cases, because, many of the things are, you're the cream kind of things which you put in. So his request was, can you do customized single-use tubes for each use? Because now when people come, people don't want to be seen using from the same thing, that. And this is a short to medium term. Let's see whether it is sustained. But this is one example of which will be here and now. And I think that's the piece which you are seeing. The other interesting thing which we are seeing in China and Europe and US, but more specifically China, where I think we've come out of in a way from COVID. We've got 5 plants there. All the 5 plants now are operating at 100% capacity. So it's fully, everything is operational. All people are there. And I think from what I hear from my colleagues when I talk to them, I think from a life point of view as well, schools have reopened, everything is working. But 2 interesting phenomena from there. I think one is, at least for China, I can use the letter and say it's been a V-shaped recovery. So so April, we delivered better than April of 19. So I think it's been a very good month. So very sharp recovery in April. And I think, across the board. I think the other interesting piece from China is, I think, personalized, and we touched upon it as a macro trend. I think personalized mode of travel will perhaps gain a little bit compared to the public transport, at least in the short term, maybe a little bit in the medium term. So this, to some extent, is good news for auto companies. So I think at least, in the surveys which have been done in China, and at least from the first numbers we've seen from a few cities, the growth is sharp in auto sector. I think that's the piece. It's also a thing for our administrators and government and city places to look at, does this open up an option for traveling more by bikes and changing that piece so if you balance the sustainability point of view from personalized mode of travel and trying to do of that stuff. So that's an important piece. And finally, from me, I think just signing off on something which Vivek talked of, but I think it's a slightly bigger phenomena on everything natural, sustainable is going to be a bigger thing which will grow up. People have seen the changes. They've seen different peaks from long distances. We've all seen some of those shots on WhatsApp, and I'm assuming many of them are correct. So I think therefore those, so therefore natural and sustainable, what has happened is there is awareness, there is active support for it, and there will be action. So to some extent, I think this is also good news from the long pending agenda of climate change. I think so on that slightly longer term note, if I was to sign off, I think that will become an important trend and a trend to watch out for, I think, for everyone, consumers, policymakers, and industry.
Great. So moving to you, Amit, and would be great to also get your perspective, not only from an end consumer perspective, but given that you work with a lot of portfolio companies who are a little bit more B2B2C, and I think there was also a question or comment in terms of what's happening from a demand perspective on that side. Would be great to hear in the next couple of minutes.
Thanks, Abhik. I guess, Sudhanshu, Manish and Vivek talked about how consumer consumes product and services and what's the behavior likely to be. Maybe I'll cover, kids and younger population, and education could be a space where we have made a couple of investments in India and Middle East, right? All of us know that, the digital transformation, which we have seen in the education space, has been massive. So during this entire lockdown period, 90% of the students globally have actually moved to online platform. What we have seen in India, the test prep company Aakash, where we have invested in, there are about 250,000 students. Now we have moved to the online platform. So we recently conducted a survey that, having gone through this entire new mode of learning for last 2 months, what has their experience been and what they see as the way forward. The good part is that 90% of them felt good about this mode of learning. So they felt that they have gained the knowledge in this space and nothing material which they have missed out. But when we probed further that how do you see going forward, what would you like to do, we were surprised that actually 50% of the students or the parents want the students to come back to the classroom training. 40% actually want to have physical as well as digital, the hybrid mode of learning, and only 10% wants to continue with the digital form of learning. So what we are seeing here is that while affordability, accessibility of the digital media is proven, but efficacy and the output is not yet, right? And what consumers are looking for, therefore, a hybrid mode of delivery, the omni-channel presence, where you could either have a physical mode or a digital mode. But more importantly, from our company's perspective, what does it mean? And there are two key takeaways which we had in this discussion. One was that distance is becoming meaningless. So earlier we will think about opening a center and then attracting a radius of 5-6 kilometers and students within that. But now with the democratization of education, with the market is just exploded. So you have a massive opportunity to actually tap the students across the country. And the second one, earlier, if you think of it before crisis, there are two types of companies. So, in a pristine sense, either you have a physical mode of delivery companies, and second could be digital. But what you need is the convergence. And it's very difficult culturally, from a product offering perspective, to be able to seamlessly integrate these two offerings. But those who are able to do that are going to succeed in the long run. And that's what our endeavor will be. And there are examples globally, as some of us will know, like TAL in China, which has actually successfully done this. So that's just to cover on the B2C or education space. We have quite a few investments in B2B, which is the tech and BPO companies where we have invested in, which caters to banking and financial services clients, logistics customers across different geographies, US, Europe, Asia, and stuff like that. In the current environment, one would take it for granted that everybody will try to conserve cash, reduce cost, those things are given. But the two positive trends which we are seeing there is, one, because the end customer is becoming digital, all the companies are actually increasing their spend on their digital transformation. So how do you accelerate your digital roadmap? Companies are actually spending more money even in the current environment. And the second one, like Manish spoke about, that 2030, he's seeing what has come in 2020. Many of the companies are not so lucky to see 10 years coming now, but at least tomorrow has arrived. So, many companies, what they were thinking about, this is what we want to do 5 years later. Companies think that in the current lean environment, when resources have time and the demand is little subdued, risk appetite has gone up. Why not do it now, right? So if these two behaviors we can incorporate in our companies or in the offering, then in that case, this could be a winning solution for our companies. And we have actually a BPO company based in US, which actually is growing in the current environment by 25% when the industry is actually declining by 10%. So, you just have to figure out what's the right winning sauce in the current environment is.
Okay, great. So, just building off, I want to touch on a second topic, but before that, this was fascinating to hear from all of you. And, I was making notes as each of you were saying. And, a few things that just came to my mind. Number one, what I heard across the board from all of you was, in terms of, categories going both up and down. So while there are some categories which are actually seeing some degree of trading up, there are others who are seeing trading down. The second, and this is, phrase that came to me was, consumers used to earlier shop just in time. Now there's shopping just in case, just to case something runs out or something else happens. I think Manish, both you and Vivek talked about, the concept of cocooning or at home, whether it's through Carom or other DIY. And then there was a, theme which was there in terms of a set of behaviors starting to happen inside companies itself. And, whether it was in terms of remote working, whether it was in terms of using digital assets, technologies, differently. So, I'd like to hear very quickly, not from each of you, as to what you have seen and observed in your companies as you have adapted in the last couple of months. And just to keep it sharp and focused, what is the one thing that you've done which you think is interesting and unique, and what is the one thing that you would want to continue in your company when the new reality ends up happening, right? And just to maybe tee it off, I'll just share an example from BCG. So we have 1,000 plus partners globally. We meet twice a year as a global group. Sometime in March this year, we decided that that's not going to happen, and we actually had a virtual meeting of more than 1,000 people, in a conference setup with breakouts, etc. And it went on for 2.5 days, and close to 90% of the people thought that it was more effective, more productive than an in-person meeting. Right. So I don't know whether BCG will continue with virtual partner meetings, but I can see that maybe not twice a year, but maybe once a year may end up being virtual as something going forward. So just starting off, and maybe Sudhanshu, if you can tee us off on this one, would be great to hear.
Yeah, thanks, Abhik. I think let me pick off from where I left last time, which is on the health and hygiene trend. So I think what EPL has done remarkably well, I think, is, Abhik, we've created a segment for tubes which did not exist. So basically, we've now launched hand sanitizer tubes in 15 days platter across the world. So I think that is because of the expertise and experience in laminates and to be able to handle the product, which is, as about 65% alcohol. So therefore, we've done that. And as we speak, there are 150 million and counting tube orders, I think, which are there, half of which may be supplied in this quarter itself. This is a global phenomena, and we are servicing 50 brands across the world. And I think the other interesting thing which has come up is that it's basically also pivoted us from being just a packaging company to a packaging solutions company. Because what we've done for many of the smaller brands, and particularly in India and in China, is that we've gone not only with the tube, we've said, this is the tube. We know some fillers. These are the people who can fill it for you. We know where to source the raw material. We can also organize secondary packaging for you. And we will be able to basically get you. So it's a full 9 yards. So it's a full solution. And I think, so therefore, and that itself is a revelation on how you go about doing things. And this is, again, a trend, as I was telling you, is here to stay. And more brands want to pivot into this space. It is something which is, so I think that's something which is being done to keep it sharp and focused. And just to build on your point on the experience, this I want to talk about Viacom 18 because I've done physical and digital there. It may not be right for me to talk of EPL. One of the last leadership team meetings I did at Viacom 18, I think, just to build on the BCG partner piece that you said, Abhi. And we do once a month. We used to do that there, and everybody's present, blah blah, and all that. We did that leadership team meeting, which used to be a day-long affair there, in about 3 hours or 3.5 hours. So first of all, you did it in just under half the time. And the consensus was, and my own, of course, judgment and feeling was, that it was by far the most effective leadership team meeting where we could get the participation of everyone in. You also become conscious as a leader that are you getting everyone in, which when you are in a physical setting, you're not. It's a softer thing, but it's a very important thing. In this setting, what happens is I'll ask, so Abhi, what do you want to say? Manish, what do you want to say? So I think the thing is, it sort of just it strengthens it. And I think, and lastly, I think as a consumer, one quick point, I have seen in the apartment block which I stay in, lot of the B2B companies, and this is now I'm talking food largely, who were catering to high-end restaurants and some other pieces, have pivoted to B2C, and they're giving us some really nice, delicious. So I think they will be thinking, I don't know this I'm saying more as a consumer, But I think many of them will start thinking, are we B2B or are we B2C, or do we do both? And I think, so that's a very interesting phenomena, whether it's gourmet cheese, it's differentiated dairy products or some other things, it's vegetable, fruits, it's, all kinds of stuff. So it's interesting on what is the stuff which is being done. So how ingenuity comes into play in times of, in these tough times, I think, so that's from my end, I think.
Thanks a ton. Amit, what is it that you have seen, maybe even in your portfolio companies, which is something which you would want to retain going forward?
So one way to think about it is what we are doing and what would continue. But if you step back and actually, I'd like to take the liberty of taking a quote from Milton Friedman. He said that crisis, actual or perceived, leads real change. And when that crisis happens, actions which you take are based on the ideas that are lying around. And the ideas at that point of time, which you might have thought that it is impossible, become inevitable. So all of us, what we are experiencing is actually, if you think of it, exactly fits into that. Work from home, all technology, Zoom, everything used to exist, but we never adopted it. We never used it. We never saw the benefit of it coming. And now we are seeing in our tech BPO companies, we have actually launched a solution to our clients that we will go to the client and try to disrupt the industry with a work from home solution. And therefore, what is interesting to see is that what has actually led to this change. So crisis brought in the sense of urgency within us. And what it made us do is that speed becomes more important than going for perfection. We stopped debating endlessly, whether Zoom will work or not, safety will happen or not, etc. But it created a sense of urgency in the whole organization to actually adopt this technology. So if I have to think about one learning which I could take back from this crisis forever, is to actually see how we bring in the sense of urgency in doing what we're doing, which could be long lasting. And the companies which are successful in doing that will actually emerge as winner and be more disruptor than actually being disrupted. So that's something which is, and to some extent in the PE industry, because we hold the asset for, let's say, 5 years, which is like T20 game, 20 quarters, what we play, we bring in that sense of urgency. But that's something which I would take it as my personal learning.
Great. Vivek, so I'm going to ask you, and I know that, Godrej has been doing work from home for some time, and, in some sense, you yourself have been, an active proponent of and the user of the same. But what is it that you have seen and done differently, and which you'd like to continue? Vivek, I think
as both Sudhanshu and Amit were saying, clearly this has been a wonderful opportunity for simplification. So you cut out the BS and really focus on what matters. Sudhanshu was mentioning about creativity and innovation. We're seeing amazing innovation happening every day. And as Amit was mentioning, speed and agility really has been something that's critical. And I think going forward, simplification, agility, and innovation will continue. At the same time, Abhik, I think the initial euphoria is probably getting a little bit dissipated now. And particularly, I'm sensing greater levels of anxiety. I think mental health will become a much bigger concern. And particularly with young mothers, it's been an extremely difficult time to try and balance their multiple responsibilities. And I think as leaders also, Abhik, work from home is actually much harder for leaders, I think, because it's so difficult to get a pulse of the people. How do you encourage spontaneous conversations? How do you facilitate on-the-job learning, which gets a little bit, I think, impacted. And so I think for us, the big learning has been in this environment, how do you find different ways to engage and connect with people? Whether it's daily huddles or check-ins, whether it's maintaining office hours still from your homes, or actually working much harder on town halls, one-on-one discussions get even more important. So I am now finding that I'm interacting with a few hundred people on a weekly basis, which I never really did before. So thanks to technology, the ability to connect and reach people in a far more frequent manner is something across the world has been a great, I think, surprise for me. And I think going forward, as we go back, whether it's our Pulse service, whether it's using chatbots, there's a fair amount of tech that's been used. But I do believe that coming out of this, we will be a far more empathetic and a far more connected and a far more engaged organization.
Great. So, Manish, over to you. One question or thought, which is, as I'm hearing all of you, is, you've talked about speed, agility, etc. And Amazon has a reputation of doing things fast. So have you guys also seen the speed, agility, come in place, or something else that you've taken from the crisis which you'd like to continue with?
Yeah, I think we are a little lucky in Amazon because it's only a 22-year-old company, and it's a company which is born in the digital age. I think someone spoke about it. People talk about online, offline digitization of companies. I have been into awesome companies, which I can proudly talk about, Hindustan Lever and Amazon. But companies which are born in the digital age are different. Let me give you an example. The first day I joined Amazon, I walked to my door, and it's important because it's an anecdote, but people will understand what I'm trying to say. And I hadn't got my office keys. And there was a guard who was walking, and I usually go to office early, and I said, "Ki aap khol denge?" He said, "Ticket raise kijiye." So what he said is, raise a ticket. And I had no clue what ticket he was talking about. So that's how digital companies work. Everything is offline. You don't have to go and meet people. You don't meet. So I think Amazon is lucky that way. Yeah, it was literally built for this age. So even if you look at our customer services, I mean, the Zoom we are doing is hosted on Amazon Web. The digital payment, the digital content, digital music, digital shopping. So it was built in a certain way. And I keep on stressing this to people. It took me a year for my DNA to change. So it's something we should be conscious about. Otherwise, it won't come by itself. The moment there are a lot of good things which people spoke about, but to keep on those practices and not to slip back to the old habits, you need a proper mechanism, not just good intent. And sometimes we depend too much on good intent. So I think that's one thing which. So for example, Amazon. I'll just give you I stay in Delhi. My office is Bangalore. And on a daily basis, I speak to my supervisor who sits in California. And my technology teams, because they have to be aligned to the time zones and with the visa problems in the last couple of years, they are based in Vancouver and Brazil. But these are people I have to speak every day. So you have to fashion your calendar in such a way that you literally know that this guy goes to drop his kid to school that time, and it's very important for him. And therefore, you time your calendar that way. So like I said, for me, it's not been a very dramatic change. But yes, there are things which have changed, which we are learning from. I'll give you a live example. This year for the fashion business, we have 2 seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. Spring, summer has been a washout. Yeah. Now fall, winter is approaching. It was unthinkable to launch a fall, winter range without meeting the suppliers, because you literally had to feel the cloth and you had to speak to the experts. This year, the entire process happened online. And I mean, touch wood, the season's not started, but I believe it will be as good as what we were achieving. And these are some of the practices which we want to read.
Understood. Thank you. Coming to the third theme that I wanted to hear, we've seen in the last few weeks a set of observations in the media about how some interesting partnerships, alliances, etc. are happening. And some of them are quite remarkable. I was talking to a set of health tech companies who are actually coming together in an alliance, a set of consortium of hospitals, health tech players, etc., to build the equivalent of the health stack for the country, right? And to the point that this is something which has been precipitated by this crisis. Think about what it could do for a long-term perspective. It could have wide-ranging ramifications. But there have also been alliances, partnerships which have happened of a different type, right? If I had to take us somewhat of skeptical view of the same. Those could be partnerships that are just partnerships of convenience, while others could actually be truly strategic and long-term partnerships. What's your view on the same? And Manish, I'll start with you, and Amit, to get your perspective on that. And do you also think, Amit, wearing your investor hat, that this is a good time to actually go on the offensive to see what can be done? So Manish, first you, and then Amit would be good to hear.
Sure, Abhi. Abhi, I think what you said was right. There are some which are short-term opportunities and there are some which are strategic. One of the things which we at Amazon are very careful about is we never let the customer bar go down. So you expect a certain service. We would rather not supply that service rather than supply it in a shoddy manner. So very consciously, minus the government and NGOs, we've not got into anything which is short-term. I think the way I would describe our effort would be acceleration. So this has proved to be that point of inflection where things which we were doing, why we are now doing much faster. So just to give you a flavor, it's like we've had a OTT business, Amazon Prime Video. We have a publishing business, Westland. We have Kindle. We have Amazon Music. I think all these businesses are now seeing acceleration. And like I said, they're not short-term, they're strategic. So when we are saying that, the next Amitabh Bachchan movie will get released on Prime Video, it's not the opportunity which you are taking saying now that theaters are closed. We are saying that there is a new ecosystem being created. Yeah, and this acceleration would have happened at some point of time, but it's just getting further sort of speeded up by this current crisis. Similarly, certain new sectors like healthcare are now becoming very interesting. It was always big. We will probably accelerate our effort there. I think the one thing which I want to talk about, which some people are asking questions on the chat box, is we are a marketplace. Currently, there are 580 to 590,000 active sellers. Over the last month or so, we've seen more than a tripling of registrations from small, medium, MSMEs. Today, you can go and shop for Big Bazaar, for example, because people don't want to go to the store. Today, if you see, we have close to 160 pump manufacturers from Coimbatore who've enrolled in the last 30 days because the traditional go-to-market models are not working as well as they did. And therefore, I think the one strategic place where we want to accelerate, there are three of them. One is, of course, the digital services. Second is payment, because we are seeing a very big spike on Amazon Pay. And the third one is, how do we make sure the high-quality small and medium businesses, including retailers, get onboarded, and we promise everyone it will take you 6 minutes to onboard your business. And there we have seen close to a 3x spikes on what we are calling local shops on Amazon. So those are some of the trends where we are accelerating, but no short-term opportunities which we are tapping on.
Got it. Amit, what about you? Empirically, it shows that acquisitions done in downturn actually end up giving better results. So are you guys looking at the same, and are you encouraging your portfolio companies to do the same?
I would say both things. One is obviously we are looking at new spaces to invest in, and all of us have seen the partnership of Jio and Facebook, which is the biggest partnership one could talk about in the current year. But just from our investment perspective, apart from the new investment, we are looking at existing portfolio companies extremely seriously. So how do we invest in our existing portfolio companies, make their balance sheet stronger, so that they can, we all know that strong will become stronger in the current environment. So therefore, if you see that the companies have an opportunity to actually win market share in the current environment, double down on those investments. And on that theme, in our tech BPO companies, for instance, in Mphasis, we increased actually our stake during this whole crisis period. So that's from a new investment or existing portfolio investment perspective. But also, when we look at our portfolios, one thing across breadth of the industry you see is that there is a new normal which is going to happen. And therefore, companies will realize that there is a capability gap which they need to bridge in. And that either they could do by building their own capability, but it will take longer time and you may not get there. So speed to market could get affected. And therefore, how can we accelerate that by buying the businesses or building a strategic alliance? And the two examples I can give in our companies, like the education company we spoke about, we acquired a company called Merit Nation, which actually caters to K-12 students and has the digital platform. So, that is very synergistic to the existing business. What we have is Akash in the test prep, business. And secondly, when we are launching the work from home business solution, every client, especially in the banking services, is worried about the security and productivity considerations. And we don't have all the tools and technology ourselves to be able to build a robust solution. So we have partnered with quite a few tech companies which could help us develop that solution which suits the customer. So those are some of the examples. I don't think we are there yet. There is a lot more needs to be done, but that's something certainly we are actively looking for those opportunities.
Great. Sudhanshu, Vivek, any thoughts from your side on the partnership side?
Yeah, Vivek, you want to go first, or okay? Let me go. Vivek, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, please, Sudhanshu, go ahead, please.
No, thank you. So I think it's Manish and Amit have already spoken about. My sense is in this period, I think it is the right time to look at alliances and partnerships, even mergers and acquisitions where it is possible. Because my own sense is this is the time when strong will become stronger, and there will be consolidation in industry where it is needed, especially if there are the industries which are very fragmented. So I think that is something which is going to happen for sure. I have also always believed that partnerships are many times born at time of need or adversity, and I think it's not necessarily COVID. Basically, if you look at when we launched Woot, so we were a content company at Viacom 18, and we knew very little about technology. Let me tell you, we launched it with 42 partners, including Amazon, Google, so big partners and small partners, but 42 partners from 28 nationalities. And a lot of people within the organization and outside the organization said it will not work, it will fail. And we didn't have anybody to project manage it. We would project manage internally. So I think the point is, and it is reached where it is reached. So I don't need to, and within now coming to EPL, which is there basically, if you look at it in a tough year, in a tough environment like this, when we've had a lockdown for such a prolonged period, April was completely locked down, we are likely to turn in a quarter with growth because of the portfolio which we run, because of the agility which we have, because of course, portfolio, both from geographic portfolio point of view, you've got China, you've got Europe, you've got America. And as Manish said right in the beginning, those are places which have opened up or are open already. And also from our, segment portfolio. So you operate in oral, you operate in, of course, we are in the staple end of the business. To that extent, we are lucky. God is kind. But the point I'm making is that, you've got the segment portfolio as well. So if you play these things well, you can really double down in this period as well. And I think there is room for growth and there's room for acceleration in that growth, even in this period. And I think it depends, of course, a little bit about sector to sector, but it can be done. And I think so. And as we speak, lastly on EPL, to your question you raised to Amit as well, there are already lot of inquiries which are coming from all kinds. So basically about partnerships, about possible acquisitions, about possible mergers. So I think there are a lot of conversations which are on. So very active.
Yeah. Vivek, to round it up.
Yeah, I think the panelists have covered very well some very good points on the importance of strategic alliances, partnerships, and possibly a case for more consolidation in the sector. So I want to repeat those points. I do believe that this is also a great opportunity for both formal and informal collaboration. And so what is happening is that the crisis is clearly affecting everyone. And there is no existing playbook. And so the willingness for players to learn from each other, peers to learn from each other, I think this is an extraordinary time to find ways to collaborate and think of the entire ecosystem. And so, for instance, we are collaborating with some of our peers for transportation. If you need a truck and you can only fill the truck halfway, find someone else who can collaborate with you. So I do believe that we are trying to solve common problems. And because the situation is so unknown and in some ways scary for all of us, I do see significant opportunities, Abhik, for actually also informal collaboration.
Understood. Great. So, this has been extremely interesting. I was actually looking at some of the questions, and we have many questions. I don't think we'll be able to answer each one of them. I'm going to bucket some of them and maybe ask one of you to respond to one of them. So, the one question, Vivek, I'll start with you. There was a question in terms of, this entire work from home, etc., is, as you said, creating stress for employees. And the question, one of the questions was, how have you been checking on your employees? What is your take on team bonding, proximity, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I think, Abhik, it's been a learning process, honestly. And over time, we've learned much more about how to define boundaries and perhaps create some norms, because we found things were increasingly blurring between work life and home life, and people were ending working 7 days a week. And so we've actually had to go back and reset some expectations. The second is, I think it requires leaders to find ways to connect far more and reach out to our team members, not assume everything is right. So whether you do it through daily check-ins, one-on-one discussions, but I think situations like this require for a much higher level of care, compassion, and empathy. And sometimes it's very difficult to know if things are wrong because you're not seeing the person face to face. And so from a leadership perspective, I think the way we are trying to connect, the way we are creating forums for people to share, along with, as Sudhanshu was saying, having celebrations, having fun. But ultimately, I think the level of, engagement and connection required needs a totally different approach than what we are used to in a more physical workspace.
Great. There were some questions, and I'm just going to bundle them, in terms of the net expectation on consumption for the year, spreading across categories. So, I'll just take a stab at it, and Manish, given that you operate across multiple categories, will then ask your perspective on the same. So the question was around, net consumption, how does one see that happening? I have done some, analysis on the same, and I think the 2-3 things which come out is, if you look at consumer discretionary, obviously that is under constraint, which is there. But consumer staples or CPG, has been relatively holding well. And at least if you look at it, about 55% of the consumption in the country is into the essential categories, which is, rent, food, etc. While 45% is the discretionary, which is coming under some pressure. And, depending on how long the lockdown lasts and the severity of the same, the answer could be different across different categories, right? Manish, you obviously see a wide range of categories, and how are you seeing the impact in terms of net consumption?
Yeah, Abhik, at this stage, it is very difficult to predict how the consumption patterns would go. There are 2 or 3 points of data which we can use as surrogate. One is what's happened in the other markets. Second is early trends of a month of sales, because it's been a month since India's opened up in all. And third, separating what is panic buying versus the trends which will continue. Yeah, and it's important. And so what I am suggesting are things which I am seeing. I'm not saying they will be trends. I would not be bold enough to even say they are trends. There is one fact which none of us can sort of avoid, and it's true in every country, that the economy will go into a tailspin. And that is important. So whichever sector you work in, be it CPG, be it automobiles, real estate, electronics, we will see that there is absolutely no question about it. I think what we should therefore focus on is things which we can do to maximize the area in which we work. Yeah. So it's, for example, like I said, MSMEs, they have to get online quickly. The traditional, what is the problem today? The problem is working capital.
Yeah.
Our sellers are short on working capital. There are no revenues coming. and it's a very, very grim situation. And we will see the consumption, and irrespective, I'm saying it's very easy to say the Louis Vuittons of the world won't do well, which is okay. But when you come to the Indian market,
Actually, the
we
Louis
will,
Vuittons of the world actually end up doing well.
yeah, the China says it is, China's, I mean, you're right, China, it's bounced back. But I think the big thing which we have to prepare ourselves is for 12 to 18 months, where consumption will go down. There would be down trading. This is a fact of life, starting from rural to all the stuff which we are reading about. Yeah, there will be trends in between, things like we spoke about earlier. But I think it is a very, very critical time a week for companies to re-engineer themselves in anticipation of this downturn. We haven't seen a downturn like this. Yeah, and that's where I think, I mean, internally, while e-commerce worldwide is booming and going through the roof, including in India, we do realize that if you can't take the economy along with you, if you can't take the small traders and the MSMEs along with you, isolated success will only last for a very short period of time. So for the people who are asking the question, yes, the downturn will happen, it will impact, and I think we need to put strategies in place to take care of it. I don't want to spend too much of time on the sectoral stuff, because which is all known and it's all anecdotal. So
Sudhanshu, the next question, and I'll probably break it up into two parts. There's been some questions in terms of, all of you have talked about speed, agility, multidisciplinary, etc. Also partnering with, other people in the ecosystem. So almost like a two-part question. What expectations would you have from your HR team or HR leadership team? Besides employee engagement, because I guess that's the obvious one. And the second part is, do you think that's going to impact almost the design of the organization in the future? Greater partnerships, fluid roles, etc. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's a great question, Avik. I think from where it's come. I think let me address both of them, and let me take just a minute on what Manish was saying, and then get on to the question. I think on the fact that, just to build on what Manish was saying, I think the fact we have to now focus on the demand side. I think we've been, as leaders, focused a lot on the supply side in the initial phase, which was also right because of the lockdowns and the challenges with supply. I think the fact is, economy is going to go down. There are people who are losing jobs. There are salary cuts. These are all realities. So I think that will reflect in demand, and therefore you do need to build some scenarios on demand side. You do need to see wherever you can pivot and find opportunities, try and do that in the sector you're operating in. Sort of just a quick point on that one. The second point, and I think that's very critical for leaders to do now, and I think, just to reiterate on what Manish was saying as well. I think the second point, which I want, sort of coming to the specific question on HR, I think there are 2-3 things. I think as HR, we've got to dial up the word empathy considerably, personally. So I think that's the first theme I want to leave out. And so therefore, I think, therefore, how do you look at what are people going through? And that some questions have come around that as well. Are you talking to your employees? Do you know what your employees are doing? Do you know what is going through their minds? What is happening in rural India? And I think we need to understand the wide spectrum, and it tends to be diverse. Human beings human beings are complex. Our environments are diverse. It's not simple. It's not cookie cutter. It doesn't work like that. So I think, therefore, you need to build in that empathy. Also see how do you make them, in order to sustain some of these things which we spoke about, and Avik said, how do we build it in? And therefore, for instance, I'll give you an example of what we are attempting to do. We haven't done it, but I'll take the liberty of sharing on the platform still, is that the reward we want to give for COVID-19 to our people is in the form of education. Education for yourself, education for your children. It's basically about reskilling and rethinking. And I think the messaging through that itself is that we got to adapt. All of us need to adapt, and the ones who adapt will survive and hopefully thrive. And I think that then becomes, I think that is a singular mode. And in order to understand that, you need to empathize, you need to sort of step into their boots and to do that. So HR has to do that as well. So therefore you need a new book, and you need to start writing and building that new book as we go forward. So that's the conceptual point with one small example. And I think on the second part of the question was around, just sort of, help me with that one. What you were talking about, the second part of the question was...
So that was, almost the organization of the future.
Organization of the future, yeah. Again,
Right.
I have firmly believed that organizations of the future and even employment of the future, I want to take it to the next level, will become more and more about work and wage and not necessarily jobs. And I think this is a pivot, this is a shift we need to think through, and all of us, Abhik, I think whether it is the policymakers, the governments, the regulators, the communities, the societal impact of that, everybody in this thing, it's about more and more wage and work. And I think it's about therefore being able to find the right set of skills and being able to marry them. And they need not be, and that trend has already started, they need not be lifetime, but they can even now be very short term. And I think that's the way, and I think that's a very good way of coping with what will come out of this as well. Some of the challenges which will come out, which we've talked about. So I think it's about work and wage, finding that gainfully, being able to pivot, in my opinion. Can you sort of get other people to do some of this stuff? So that will be very important. And I think that's so, therefore, shifting our thinking from, what you call classic employment and jobs to maybe what I would like to call work and wage, and continuously thinking about skilling and reskilling and unlearning and relearning. I think, it's hard, but it is important. I think, and so therefore, that's what I would say.
Got it. So Amit, the question, and again, I'm really sorry for all the participants who are seeing this. I'm trying to club stuff together and, doing it in real time. So, I've seen a set of questions in terms of, focus on supply so far, on removing bottlenecks, so the focus on demand and, what can be done in order to do that. And the second thing, I think, especially for the small businesses, focus on liquidity and cash, and as you think about your portfolio companies, both for the companies and for their customers, how are you thinking about both, reigniting demand as well as, thinking about liquidity and cash?
Yeah. So Abhik, first of all, for what we've done across our company, just to on the liquidity and the cash part of it, there are three stages. Let's say the first one, let's say you're talking about survival, then revival, and then thriving, right? So the first thing which we did across all our companies is to look at the liquidity positions of the company, whether that's sufficient for the companies to last for, let's say, next 2 years, even if the collection, let's say, would be 50% of what it receives from its customers. And we realized that there are some companies where there might be gaps, and therefore what can be done in those companies. So whether in terms of equity, debt, and stuff like that. So first thing which we did was to safeguard from a survival perspective. Then we have worked with the companies on at different stages, different companies are there, but on the revival strategy is how do you get back to your existing level of profit, existing level of revenue? So what all the things which you need to do to get back to where you were before the crisis? And third is to think about the thriving part, that what could you do to win the market share? And what we have done, two things I would talk about, is that in the companies, we have created two separate teams and the leaders for leading the defensive strategy and the offensive strategy, because it's very difficult to actually, mix between the two.
Both.
And therefore, a sales or a business leader will typically lead the offensive strategy, and the CFO or HR might be, leading the defensive strategy. And whenever we are also engaging with our companies, we are engaging in very two different sessions. Don't mix up these two, right? So that's one thing which, we have done in our company, and we think that that has done well. And secondly, from a demand perspective, and it will differ from industry to industry, company to company, but I think what's most important is the external orientation, being closer to our customer, listen to our customer, and then bring back that noise or what you're hearing back to the company, right? And during this time, actually, if earlier you would have taken possibly 6 months or a year to set up a meeting, now things are happening real time. So the customer engagement actually has gone up multiple notches across our companies. And then for companies are able to find solution which can help accelerate the demand. The liquidity concern in the country is certainly an issue, and therefore that requires some of the policy intervention at a structural level. And through our NBFC or through our collaboration with government, etc., we are trying to see what are the policy measures which can be put in place, but it's not an easy solution. And I don't think I can claim that we have a solution in place which can address that issue. But just sharing some examples.
Great. Couple of questions, and I'm just going to ask each one to respond very, quickly and sharply. So, Vivek, there's a set of questions for you, and I think if I was to bucket them, I think it was in terms of, do you see the mix between, let's say, rural, urban changing significantly? Do you see the shift in channels happening? And do you see a shift in premium versus mass as you think about it? So, geography, rural, urban, channels, general trade, e-commerce, etc. And then within the portfolio, price point, mass, premium.
So we can try and do it very, very quickly. I think in the short term, definitely, as Manish was also saying with down trading, you will see a greater focus on staples. Discretionary will take some time, which means that focus on value means less premiumization in the near term. In the near term also, with a huge amount of workers who've gone back, assuming a good monsoon, you should start seeing some uptick in rural, because rural really got hurt far more than urban did. So I think from a growth rate perspective, I think rural will start seeing a little bit more of a uptick. And I think Manish knows this very well. I think this is going to be a significant boom for e-commerce and online. While I do see some resurgence in Kirana stores, you will see lots of polarization. People will be buying for different reasons and different occasions and different stores. I do believe that this is an inflection point where e-commerce is seeing a huge number of new users, and you will see a significant uptake in online.
Great. Sudhanshu and Manish, one question for the two of you on being sort of on the other side. The question was, while the consumption of media has increased multifold, advertising revenues have dropped and companies have actually stopped that. Is that likely to turn back quickly? So in short, Manish, when are you guys going to be advertising, in fuller swing? But more seriously, Sudhanshu, your perspective from the media versus revenue perspective, and then Manish from your side from an advertising perspective.
Manish, you are going first, or I'll go. I'll tell. So basically, it is going to take a little bit of time. I think because advertising is closely linked to economy and the growth in economy. And as we spoke about, that there is a clear downturn. It's perhaps one of the likely to be a more prolonged and a downturn which we've not seen. So therefore, there will be a prolonged period or a longish period of subdued advertising. So I think it will bounce back from its no advertising almost in April in an Indian context. I believe it shrunk by 90%. It's not going to be that bad, but it'll take time. It's not going to jump to its bullish 100% or more in a hurry. So I think if you are in that segment, you've got to budget for it. I think the slightly longer term way of looking at it is, in my opinion, I think for media, personally, if you ask me, I think, we need to pivot to direct to consumer a little bit more sharply and faster. And I think that is better, because then you balance the advertising and direct to consumer. And I think, it's that balance which is healthy. I think trying to lean on one a lot versus the other may not be a great idea. So I think, being able to go direct to consumer, to dip into the consumer wallet will be a good strategy, and to pivot into that space, because that is, irrespective of what happens to economy, is a little bit more sustainable. Because as they say, you need to entertain yourself when you're happy, and you need to entertain yourself when you're sad. But the challenge for the companies is to be able to dip into the wallet and make sure that you have a model which survives in both cases. Because if you are too dependent on advertising, then in times like this, it's a little difficult. So I think that's what I'd like to say.
Manish,
yeah, I think as a advertising platform, because we have a lot of people who advertise with us, we are seeing an upside. Companies are getting sharper on the advertising investment. So things which you can't measure very sharply, typically in terms of number of eyeballs, the pixel which they clicked on, will see a little bit of a downturn in the short run. But digital advertising will see the upside. As a brand, we continue to advertise. We are advertising very heavily on digital as we speak, because like I said, if 2030 is happening in 2020, you also need to nudge the consumer in that direction. So that's a point of view from both ends.
Great. Thank you. So one last question to each of you, and I'll make it into sort of two parts. I think there is one theme, Vivek, you talked about collaboration. I think it's also a time where companies have, collaborated with the government as well. So any thoughts on that? And more specifically for each member, can I ask you to share one big win, one personal learning at an individual level that has already paid off and which you want to or will continue doing going forward? Amit, starting with you.
I'll take the second one, being the first one. Yeah. So
Sure.
on the personal front, in some of our panel members, we are actually runners, and in this lockdown period, we have not been running, so we had to figure out new form of exercises. So I have at least picked up HIIT, Tabata, skipping, stair climbing, etc., and have realized the virtues of it. So while I'm looking forward to go resume my running, but these are going to be part of my life going forward.
Great, thank you. Vivek, can I ask you to?
Yeah, I think, Abhi, to your questions, business, civil society, and citizens have to join hands together with the government. The problem is too difficult for anyone to solve. And it is our individual and collective responsibility to find ways to actually partner with the government. And the government is also increasingly far more willing to partner with us. In terms of, I think, my personal learning, as for some of us who prided ourselves on being road warriors, I haven't missed business travel at all. And frankly, I'm dreading about getting onto a flight whenever that happens, yes. And, I've been wondering as to why we were traveling so much and was it actually necessary? So in some ways, it's actually forcing us to rethink the need for business travel. And Abhi, as you were saying, if so much can be done virtually, I think we will all at an individual level probably reduce our travel quite significantly and hopefully ensure a better quality of life.
Amen to that.
Yes.
Sudhanshu, you and then Manish.
So I think on the government, I want to leave it on a slightly philosophical note on the government and public-private partnership. And I think all components, as Vivek was saying, all parts of the society coming together, communities, consumers, industry, government. I think, Abhi, and one is that in hindsight, and with the caveat that in hindsight, all of us are wise, and also something that we can do for the future. Two ideas. I think I was thinking, it really pained me, and Vivek started with that as well. With the way migrants movement basically happened in our country, and it was really painful. So I was reflecting on it. I was thinking if the government and maybe even the industry, the travel industry, travel and tourism, and particularly the travel, the guys who organize travel, right? I think your operators, so to say, the organizers who had collaborated, we could have managed this better. Government has never done this at this scale. Government doesn't manage travel for anybody, and nor does its duty. But how do you do this with private participation? Maybe we could have done it a little better. How do you plan for trains? How do you plan for buses? And you look at that industry had also come under severe pressure. So travel and, so all the travel agents were in opinion free, they were available. So you could gainfully engage them, maybe employ them and even slightly reward them, but I think, and do a better job. And I think that could have been easily done. So I think, and again, I'm saying it's easy to talk in 2020 hindsight, but that's one thing. Moving ahead, if you look at it now, you have hospitality sector will be under some pressure. You have, salons and some of these things will continue to remain under some pressure. One challenge which India has with its workforce in general, and especially, is social skills. So there are some of these people who can then impart social skills, because then that makes some of these people more employable. Now, I think, again, it's a broad idea. How do you go about doing it? What you do in this? But I think there are a lot of things which we can do, which basically work for the society, work for individuals, solve for the job and wage issue at this point in time. So therefore, that is a thought. And I think collaboration should continue. Collaboration at basic level is happening, but we need to raise it and open our minds. On a personal level, Abhi, I've learned to cook. And I think, and I have 3 ladies in my life, my wife and my 2 daughters. They're delighted that I'm beginning to learn because I can do a dal and a chawal and maybe one dish, and I need to continue to do more of this. So I think, and they always said that, why can't you cook? Why can't you cook? You need to sort of, so I have to do more of it and continue to learn to cook. So I can now serve a small, simple meal, and hopefully as we go forward, a little bit more elaborate one.
Thanks, Manish.
Yeah, I think.
And I'm just conscious of time, so would just request to keep it up.
Yeah, I think one thing which has happened because of this crisis is we are working closely with the government in areas where we can add value, which is computing. So AWS is very deeply involved in some of these modeling for the virus infection. Machine learning, because that's another area where we have a lot of expertise. And third, of course, is to support small trade. And on all these 3, we work with NITI Aayog, DPIIT, Ministry of Consumer Affairs. So we're working closely with them. I think on the personal front, I echo what Vivek said. I really love it that I don't have those 2 days of jet lag, traveling 19 hours to Seattle every month. So I'm really enjoying it, and nothing is, it's not impacting the output. Therefore, clearly avoidable.
Great. Thank you. So let me wrap it up. Just 2 quick thoughts. One is, over the last few months, I think the one learning I've had is the learning of humility, right? This is completely uncertain, and I'm in the profession of professing as to what is going to happen in the future, and I think this has served as a reminder that it's extremely difficult to do that. And I think on a personal note, I would say I don't miss the travel like many of the others, and hope that some of these changes will happen the way Manish, you were saying. It's not only about getting the treadmill home, but making sure that you continue to use it, and hope it doesn't lapse like the gym memberships, which have an all-time high, takeoff in January, and then February, it peters out. So that's the thing. Shiv, over to you to wrap things up, and thank you to all the panelists. I think this was a fascinating conversation, and I think the beginning of a conversation than the last word, because I think we will see things change as we go along.
Thank you,
Thank
Abhi.
you.
I don't know about the other participants, but I filled up 4 pages of notes. And while we called this a fireside chat, I think this was really, to me, a masterclass in just on consumer and business trends, transformations there. So thank you. I think great practical on-ground inputs. One of the things we were conscious of in these talks is that less gyan and more real life, and I think that really came to life there. So thank you, Sudhanshu, Amit, Vivek, Manish, and of course Abhi. Great chat. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you, Abhi. Abhi, fantastic job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Shiv. Thanks, co-panelists. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.